Hey, what's up guys? It's CovertCode here, and in today's video I'm gonna be teaching you guys how to make a stamina bar and sprint system. Now, I took the liberty of creating a model with the UI already done for you guys. Just go into the comment section below and grab that so we can minimize the time that we take on this tutorial, okay? So once you've taken that, just go to your models here. So like view your toolbox. If you can't see your toolbox, just go to view toolbox, okay? And just drag the model in your game and just drag that into your starter GUI. If you cannot see the Explorer tab or the Properties window, then go to View, Explorer, and Properties. And that's how you view these two windows and get the GUI in your game. Now we need to create a script. So click on your GUI that you just imported, go to Insert Object, and if you cannot see this tab, go to Model and Insert Object right there, and just create a local script. And let's just call this, Stamina Controller. Okay. Now we're going to define a few variables. I have a video on variables, so if you guys don't know what variables are or how they're used, then just go check that out. The link will be in the description below. Okay, so local player is equal to game.players.localPlayer. So this will be your player object. So if your name is CovertCode, this will point to your CovertCode player object. So if I click play, wait for the game to load. This is what I'm referring to. Okay, so this is the CovertCode player object. So that's what we're going to be referring to when we use local player. We also want to address the character variable. So local character is equal to player.character. So you know that character you walk around with, your actual avatar, that's what I'm referring to here. So player.character, okay? Or player.character added weight. So it's either going to directly address your character, your avatar, okay? Or it's going to wait until that gets created and then store that inside of this variable. Now we need to also index the humanoid variable. So local humanoid is equal to character weight for child humanoid. Now the humanoid object is what controls how much health you have, how fast you walk, how much jump power you have. So this is the character object, okay? And this is the humanoid object. So if we scroll down, you can see that it controls my jump power. If I make this 150, I'm going to jump really high. Okay, and it also controls if you sit down or how much health you have, as I said, and something that we're directly interested for the purposes of this video, how fast you can run. Okay, so if I make this 50, you're going to... Now, wait for child simply means if it doesn't exist, we're going to wait for it to exist and then index that inside of this variable. Okay, now we're just going to also index these for convenience's sake. So this exterior bar that you had imported from my model, okay, and this bar right here. Now local exterior is equal to script.parent.exterior. So script.parent.exterior, okay, and local bar is equal to exterior.bar. So exterior.bar. So that's what we've just stored right there. Now we want to also index a few more variables. I know guys, it's a lot of variables, but it will make your life that much easier if you just store everything that you need to work with. Okay, so this is going to be so local sprint speed is how fast you're going to run, okay, when you're sprinting. So I'm just going to put this at 25. So this is your walk speed when sprinting. Okay, you can change this to whatever you guys like, but I'm gonna put it at 25 for the purposes of this tutorial. So local default speed, that's going to be, when you're just randomly walking around without sprinting, that's going to be your speed. So normal speed. And we also want to establish a maximum stamina. So local maximum stamina is equal to 100. So this is how much stamina you're going to have in general, okay? So just how much stamina you have to work with. And this here is going to be local stamina decrease. So when you're sprinting, how much of this stamina do you want to decrease every time? You know, I'll actually show you how this is going to work in a bit down here. But for now, just this is how much stamina you're going to essentially, quote unquote, burn off each time you're sprinting. Okay, so I'm going to put this at 0.4. You can put this as high or as low as you'd like. But we'll actually modify this potentially later on in the tutorial. Now, we also want to define the key that you're going to be using. So if you want to use left control or shift, for example, to sprint, you need to define that. So local sprint key is enum.keycode.left control. Now we just want to define a service called user input service. So local user input service is equal to game get service user input service. So this is the service which essentially captures your input. So whenever you press W to move forward or S to move backwards, this service here basically captures that input and actually makes you do the thing that you're doing. So if you're moving forward when pressing W, it's actually making you move forward because you press W. Okay, but don't think too much about that. Just think about how we're going to use this in the context for this tutorial. We're going to use this to check if we're pressing this key, okay? And if we are pressing that key, we want to toggle a variable. I know it's another variable. These will be the last two variables, and then we can actually do the, you know, the code that we need to make the system work. But until then, local sprinting is equal to false. So if this is true, then we're sprinting. We're holding down the left control key and we're actually sprinting. And this here is going to be stamina amount. So, you know, we said maximum stamina. So this is going to be, let me show you guys. So this will be maximum stamina. So you're going to start off with a full tank of stamina. And as you hold down the left control key, in our case, your stamina will decrease by this amount. Okay, every time you hold it down. So this is essentially stamina amount out of maximum stamina. Yeah, that's what we're going to use it for. But for now, just think of, we're starting off with a full tank, and the full tank is maximum stamina. Now we need to actually use user input service. So user input service dot input began connect function key and processed. I'll bring up the default documentation on the Roblox wiki now on the screen, but basically these two arguments here get passed by default, so that's why I'm adding them there. But we're only going to be using, actually we're going to be using them both. So let me just show you guys. So if not processed, don't worry about this too much. It's just to make sure it's you know, it's as fluid as the key pressing can be. Okay, so if it's not being processed, then we want to check if the actual key that was pressed, okay, is the key that we want to use for sprinting. So if key.keycode, okay, so we're just gonna be comparing the key codes, is equal to sprint key, then player is sprinting. Okay, so if they are pressing down the left control key, then they are trying to sprint. So sprinting is equal to true. Okay, we're just changing this variable right there. Okay, so we're just gonna copy this and paste that again. However, this time we want to detect when someone lifts their fingers off the key. So input ended. Okay, so this is whenever someone pushes down the key, and this is when someone like lifts their fingers off the key. And same thing, we're just gonna check if the key that they lifted their fingers off from is the sprinting key. And in that case, player stopped sprinting, okay, because they took their fingers off the control key. And sprinting is now false. Okay, so now we have our general functionality done. We just need one final key component to make this system work in its entirety. So instead of using loops, we're going to be using something called render stepped. Okay, so I'll bring up the documentation for that now. But essentially, it's pretty much a loop, except it runs whenever a frame is like rendered, essentially. So If you're not too technical, you don't need to know, just know that it's a loop. And if you do not know what a loop is, I also have a video on loops, and again the link will be in the description below. So if you don't know what those are, just go watch that video, come back again, and yeah, let's proceed. So game run service render stepped connect function. So every time a frame is rendered, okay, using the run service, we're just going to run this function here. Okay, that's all we did. So if stamina amount is greater than 0, then if you guys remember, the stamina amount variable was how much stamina you have left in the tank. Okay, so if you have more than 0 like stamina in your tank, then you can actually sprint. So if sprinting, then okay, so you have more than 0 stamina in your tank. Okay, and if you're actually holding down the key, so if you're actually holding down the key to sprint, then we want to increase your walk speed. So humanoid.walk speed is equal to sprint speed. Now, if you remember again, we set that speed up here. So this is how fast you're going to be sprinting. Pretty much, yeah, how fast you're going to be sprinting or running, I should say. And we also want to add one final check, okay? Because sometimes I mean, not sometimes, you can stay in place, okay, and hold down the control key, and your stamina will still deplete. We do not want that. We only want your stamina to deplete whenever you're moving around. So we're gonna do one simple check for that. So if humanoid.move direction magnitude is greater than 0, then I'll bring up a diagram of how this works, as in like what the magnitude is. But the move direction is a vector tree, so it's a set of coordinates. Okay. And if the magnitude of those 3 coordinates is actually greater than 0, then we'll actually make you sprint around. Okay? If not, then we don't have to do anything because you're not moving in the first place. Okay? So humanoid, actually, we already wrote this. So what I'm gonna do now is, if you're sprinting, right? If you're moving around and you're pressing down the control key and you're moving faster because of this, we want to decrease how much stamina you have left in the tank, because if we don't do that, you're just gonna have like infinite stamina, and we do not want that. So the variable here was stamina amount. Okay, so stamina amount minus equals stamina decrease. So this is how much stamina we said we want to decrease every time you're sprinting, right? And this is the tank, the metaphorical tank that you have. Okay. We also want to add an else here. So an else is, well, I shouldn't have to explain this. I have a video on if conditions. If you don't know what those are, you shouldn't probably be watching this video. You should watch that video first and then come back. But that doesn't matter much. But if you just want to follow along, just watch this. But if you want to know what if conditions are and how they work, go check out the video in the description, okay? So humanoid.walk speed is equal to default speed. So just if you don't even have more than 0 stamina in your tank, we want you to, well, not be able to sprint. So we're just going to reset your speed back to the default speed. Okay? We also want to add an else condition here. So else, if you're not trying to sprint, but you have enough stamina to sprint, you shouldn't be sprinting because you're not trying to sprint. So let me just rephrase that. If you're not holding down the sprinting key, okay, so if this is not true, but you have more than 0 stamina in your tank, you can sprint, but you're choosing not to sprint, okay? In that case, we also don't want you to be going faster because you're not trying to like sprint in the first place. Okay, so why would we make you faster? Okay, now the final piece of this system is this part here. So if stamina amount is less than maximum stamina, so if your tank consists of 100 stamina, if any amount that you have in your tank currently is less than 100, okay? So if you have less than 100 stamina, essentially, in this case, we want to do something here, okay, about that. Else, if you have a full tank, we do not have to display the tank, okay? So right here, if I just toggle this is your tank, it's full, okay? We do not need to show that, because it's just going to get in the way. You don't want to pollute your user's interface for no reason, okay? So we're just going to disable that if your stamina is full, and if it's not full, then we want to make this visible, okay? So that's what we're gonna be. So that's what we're gonna be doing, okay? So hide if full. So exterior.visible is equal to false, okay? So we're just toggling this property here. If it's true, then it can be seen, as you can see, and if it's false, then it cannot be seen. We're just gonna copy this, paste this right here, and change this to true, because if it's less than 100, so if your tank is not full, then we want it to show, okay? So now, the mathematical part of this formula. You need math sometimes in programming, I know, it's sad.
Why are you crying?
But I'll bring up something on the screen now to help you visualize what we're about to do and what we're trying to calculate. Okay, so local formula, I'll explain as well. So stamina amount divided by maximum stamina. So this is how you get the percentage. Actually, this is how you get the percentage of. Give me a second. So if your stamina is at 50, okay, and your maximum stamina is 100. You're essentially getting 0.5, okay? So this bit here, it will give you 0.5. And if you multiply this by 100, okay, that will give you 50. And in our case, that would be 50%. So you have 50% of your stamina left. Same applies for if you have 90. So if you have 90 stamina in your tank, and you divide that by how much you have in your tank, okay, that's going to give you 0.9. Okay, and if you multiply that by 100, that will give you 90%. That's how you find the percentage, you know, by using two amounts. You don't need to know this. I'm just explaining this to you guys just in case you're confused. In our case, we only need 0.9 because our values here, like the size values that we're gonna be manipulating, only go up from from 0 to 1, ideally. They can go higher, but you wouldn't want to do that normally, okay? So remove this, multiply by 100 right there. So bar again is this object here. Let me just show you guys what I'm trying to do. So make that visible. Essentially, if it's like 50%, we want to toggle the bar somewhere around here, okay? What we're gonna be doing using tweening. Now, if it's 90%, we want to bring it up to here, essentially. If it's almost at 0, we want to like lower down to somewhere right here, okay? So let me just undo everything, and let's actually do the tweening. So tweening is just a way of manipulating like a property in a very subtle way to make it look nice, okay? You don't have to know what tweening is, just know that we're using it to make the resizing of the bar GUI look pretty, essentially. So bar, tween size, and position, because if you notice right here, if I change the bar size, look at the position changing, okay? And I'll show you how to get this value soon, but just know that when we move this bar up and down, the position value is changing as well. So we also want to account for that, okay? But let me just undo and show you how to actually tween. So udem2.new. So udem2 is just the unit of scale for GUIs. So this here, the size is a udem2. Okay, it has the X and Y and the scale and offset for every one. Okay. And we want the X-axis to always be 1 for the bar. Okay, so this is gonna be 1. That means that it's going to take up 100% of its parent's size. So if I make this 0.687, it's only taking up around 68 to 69% of the parent size. We want this to always be 100% of the parent size, okay? Unless you want to do something slightly different than what I'm gonna do now. Ideally have that at 1, okay? So 1, 0, formula, 0. Now remember, the formula is gonna give you a value from 0 to 1, okay? And that's perfect for what we're trying to achieve. Okay, now this is going to be the udem2 value for the size, okay? Now we're going to give it the udem2 value for the position. And that's actually quite simple. Let's just copy and paste this, okay? It's just 1 minus formula. So if I go to the bar and make the parent visible real quick, if I decrease this, as you can see, it's 0.32. And if you do 1 minus 0.68, you're going to get 0.32. If you don't believe me, then just, just work out this value. And yeah, pretty much you get what I'm saying, okay? So you don't have to try and prove me wrong, because I'm not wrong, essentially. But yeah, so let's just undo everything, and it's just 1 minus formula, okay? So it's just accounting for the size property. So I'll bring up an animation on the screen now about what I'm saying, just so you guys can visualize it better, okay? Okay, so as I keep saying this, but this is almost done, okay? So now we just need to do some easing directions. So easing direction.out, easing style.linear. I'll bring up what easing styles and easing directions are on the screen now. You can choose to use any one you like. These are just my personal preference, okay? And this is the time it's going to take your tween to complete. So I want this to take the minimum amount of time possible, okay? If you want it to be slower, increase this value. If you want it to be even faster for some reason, decrease this value, okay? I want mine to be 0.1 seconds, so it's going to take 0.1 seconds to, tween, position, size my bar object. And this is just going to be true. So what this does is, if you have a tween going on right now, and you, for some reason, try and tween the same object while a tween is ongoing, this is just basically an override variable, okay? Just don't worry too much about that, just set it to true so it's as smooth as possible, okay? And now, and I'm not lying this time, the final piece of this system, if not sprinting, then, so if you're not sprinting, like if you're not holding down the sprinting key, then stamina amount plus equals stamina decrease. So this would regenerate your stamina if you're not sprinting, okay? So that's what this does. We do not want the stamina to, replenish while you're running. We want it to only replenish if you're not running, okay? And with that, the system is complete. Let's test, play, and hopefully everything works fine. Let's see. Loading. And if I just hold down control, nothing happens, okay? If I hold down control and move, ooh, we sized something wrong here. So I'll show you what we did wrong, and I did this on purpose, just to see if you guys can actually figure out what I'm doing. Okay, we scaled down, we scaled in general the wrong axes, okay? So notice here how we're doing 1. We do not need this to be like 1, You're not trying to change the X direction of the bar. Look here, what I did there essentially is I moved the X position like that. We do not want to do that. We only want to change the Y position, okay? So let me just toggle that, play, and now everything will work fine, okay? So see, you move around, hold control, run, you're moving faster, don't move, your stamina stays there because it's not full, release the control key, stamina goes up, replenishes. Okay, so control again, keep going, and there we go. You're not sprinting anymore because you have no more stamina, Okay, release that, your stamina goes up. Okay, so that's how you make a stamina system, guys. Stop right there. So yeah, if you guys like this video, like, subscribe, the usual stuff, guys. Leave any suggestions you might have for future videos in the comment section below. So yeah, see you guys next time.